Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. I'm so excited. We have my friend S.E. Cupp back with us today. We'll chat with S.E. in just a few moments, but first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So S.E. Cupp is a nationally syndicated columnist, author, podcaster, and TV commentator. She is host of the Off the Cupp podcast, which features interviews with celebrities, and newsmakers, and all kinds of cool folks. She is a columnist at the New York Daily News and has also been published in the New York Times, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone, Washington Post, and many other publications. She is currently a political commentator at CNN, and she regularly interviews authors for C-SPAN's BookTV, and is a regular guest on The View, Real Time with Bill Maher, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Watch What Happens Live, and others. SC has also consulted on Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom and AppleTV's The Morning Show, and has made cameos on House of Cards and Saturday Night Live. As an author, SC has written 2 books, Losing Our Religion, The Liberal Media's Attack on Christianity, and co-authored Why You're Wrong About the Right. SE, welcome back into the back room.
Thanks for having me back.
So much going on. We were just talking before we started how it is dizzying, the amount of news, and most of it insane, that comes at us like every half hour of every day. It's nuts. How do you deal with it?
No one has the brain capacity to take in all of it at the same time. So, like, naturally, you tune stuff out. Mm-hmm. But the stuff you have to tune out is really, really important and bad. Like, there's not like this bucket of news that, like, this isn't important, I don't really have to deal with it. It's all important and crazy. But you can't focus on all of it all at once. So you have to pick and choose, which means necessarily that, like, really important stories are getting dropped and not focused on. Like this one by the Coast Guard. I don't know if you heard this. Sure. The Coast Guard is now designating the swastika is no longer a hate symbol.
Well, didn't they come out like at the end of the afternoon and deny that was happening? That and
did they? See?
Yeah.
I don't even know part B of that story. Part A is bad enough, but you don't see it on the cable news channels mostly, because, you know, Epstein and everything else that's going on.
Well, you're
Trump,
right. That was not
threatening the lives of Democratic lawmakers. Like,
what's a little death threat among friends?
Crazy.
Could you imagine?
You can't possibly keep up. I missed the second beat of that story.
Howard Dean, his political career was over because he shrieked on victory night. On victory night, right? On victory night. Donald Trump could literally say that members of Congress should be hung because they're traitors. And like, that's just like, all right, what are we having for lunch?
It gets like one beat.
Yeah. It's so normalized, everything that he does, that things that would normally get attention in years past or ruin a career,
right?
Today it's nothing. But you're right.
Well,
it overshadows.
Disqualifying anymore.
No, but like you said, it overshadows other things that. I mean, look, I am willing to bet every last dollar I have that the Coast Guard actually was going to do that, and then it blew up online. That's where I saw it. I didn't really see it on cable news. It blew up online, and then there was what appears to be a fairly quick reversal.
Walk back. Okay.
Yeah, but that's where we are in this country, that the Coast Guard would no longer, designate swastikas, the Confederate flag.
That comes from somewhere.
Yeah, of course it does.
You have to wonder, Pete over at Defense kicking out good journalists from the Pentagon. What else don't we know? And, did that come from the top? Did that come from Pete? That stuff we should know. And we're just not going to know stuff. And, not releasing the jobs numbers from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Like, that's intentional. Mm-hmm. And that's just stuff we're not going to know so that Trump can lie about the jobs numbers. I mean, these are 5-alarm fires, but they don't even get to the level because Trump is threatening to kill lawmakers. So it's like, I mean, we miss so many important stories. I'm not saying we all miss them. I'm just saying, like, you can't give every story the attention it deserves in an environment like this. And we all lose because of that. We all lose when, I'm not trying to make the media out to be heroes, but like we all lose when the media can't do its job properly. And especially you feel this acutely in a small town, when a newspaper shutters or a TV news station shutters because there's no funding. We've seen, like, science has shown corruption goes up when local news shutters in a small town or a county. Because sometimes journalists are the only people holding leaders accountable. And that goes up to the very top in a national sense too. And so when we can't cover everything, either because there's too much news or because people like Pete Hegseth are kicking journalists out, or Trump is kicking good journalists out, everyone loses when we can't do that. Everyone loses.
Yeah. Well, it's been a very consequential past couple of weeks. There's been so much that's been happening, and I want to go through some of this stuff with you in a minute. But I want to start with more of a macro observation or question, and that is, do you feel like I feel that something has changed? That the strength of his presidency, his personal hold on the things he had a hold on, the resistance movement, something just feels like his presidency is just spiraling and may not recover.
Well, I think both things are true. I think you're right about both things. There's evidence of what you're saying in, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace, right? Three very loyal MAGAists turning on him and, demanding the release of the Epstein files, or in Marjorie Taylor Greene's case, really going after him on America First and foreign policy. That is new. I would caution it's not that consequential unless this trickles down to voters. And I think the only thing that's going to matter is if voters get tired of the Trump economy. And we have some evidence that they are. And because that was the singular promise he made, and it was an important promise. And it's why Democrats lost, because they weren't making that promise. They were saying the economy is great. Terrible messaging. Trump said, no, the economy is terrible, and I'm going to fix it. That's what mattered to voters. Immigration too, and crime as well. But really the economy. And because of tariffs and DOGE cuts and just a totally dysfunctional Congress and all of that, people are feeling like life is worse since Trump got elected. That's the worst thing that could happen to his presidency.
Well, you see that in the polling. It's clear.
You do see it. You're starting to see that. If that continues, right, to midterms, if that continues to 2028, he and Trumpism really lose all of their heft and their weight and their shine. Because that really was the pillar propping it all up. Yes, there was other stuff, nationalism and frustration and all kinds of different cultural things and some angst over social issues. But really the economy is what was propping up MAGA. So if that collapses, they're done. So,
well, I saw on your network this morning, I think it was John King sat with, maybe in Ohio
in
or
Pennsylvania.
He sat with
I saw
people who voted for Trump 3 times, and they're like,
yes,
I'm done.
I saw that as well.
He failed me. And so the big question is, do they change their voting patterns because of it, or are they like, no, but he's doing other stuff that I like? Like, they didn't seem like they were still with him,
Yeah, but I saw that same report. I worry about someone that voted for Donald Trump 3 times. Like, well, I mean, what, based on what? Like, what evidence did you have that this guy was going to do the things he promised to do? Because he didn't do them the first time. So I worry, like, that's not, I don't think, a persuadable voter. I don't, I hear her. I saw this 3-time Trump voter in Pennsylvania talking about her frustration. I hear her. But a 3-time Trump voter is not, I think, where you're going to get the turnover. I think you've got to go to those Democrat, moderate, and independent voters that gave Trump their vote for the first time.
Well, he's lost the independents already. I mean, that's
already. But again, we've got like a year to midterms.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things can happen. But yeah, I think that's where like Democrats need to get their own voters back, because a lot of them left, and recapture the middle. They're not going to do that with like a Mamdani. They're going to do that with moderates across the country. That's where they've got to go. The 3-time Trump voter, to me, is like, I don't trust that you're voting in a sane way anyway. So I don't, your vote is not mine to get. But yeah, you are hearing frustration from people who gave him their first vote. A lot of Latinos and some young people, even some young men, saying like, this isn't what I voted for. This isn't what I was promised. They were paying attention to his promises, and they feel let down. Does that last through midterms? Does that last through 2028? That's what we have to find out.
Well, the interesting question is there a reason why it wouldn't? Because Trump is who he is. Like, in order to sort of really have doubts that the momentum that we're seeing, on November 4th, we saw Hispanics defect. We saw young men defect in huge numbers.
Yeah.
But in order for that to change or reverse itself, you have to believe that there's going to be a moment where Trump is like, all right, I'm going to start being a good guy. I'm going to start helping people. I'm going to start not being a maniac. He's never going to change. So the way I look at it is that it's only going to get worse for him because of who he is and what he is incapable of doing.
I think you're right about that. But I think the caution I would offer is, we're already seeing him pull back on tariffs, right? And tariffs are the most damaging thing he's done to the economy. If he does that and convinces his base, like, no, this all worked exactly according to plan, instead of the reality, which is that it didn't work at all. It was a terrible idea. He wrecked the economy and then slowly tried to fix it. That could, again, it's the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever else he does is secondary to that. So if he pulls back on tariffs, tries to right his wrongs while saying he was right and there were no wrongs, a lot of people are going to believe that. And if they feel better about the economy, that's all that's going to matter.
Well, I agree with you on one level, but I just feel like that requires an intelligent, competent, secure individual who makes rational, strategy-based decisions. Like if France, Macron says something at some summit that he doesn't like, he'll be like, 50% tariff on France.
Tariffs.
Like, there's no,
that's true.
Or if like somebody gets jailed in Spain who is a friend of his, like Spain will get hit with, because he's a maniac. None of this is tied to any foreign policy or monetary policy. So that's why I say like it's, to me at least, and maybe I'm just naive, but it does seem very predictable to put your money on him only digging in deeper, getting worse, doubling down, tripling down, and just being who he is.
I think that's fair. I think that is fair.
But
we know him a long time. And I think we can see him sort of spiraling. He does not seem in control right now. And he seems like he's making a lot of decisions as a reaction to bad news and bad polling and losses, right? Losses in the courts and losses in Congress. So I think that's a safe assumption. I'm always reticent to believe like this is the end of him. Because we've been here.
He has a way of making you feel that way, doesn't he? Like it's true. It's so true. Yeah. I usually end every one of my sentences with, "But he's Trump, and look what he's done so far." Like, I never thought he could ever be elected president again. Like that, it's like, how is he actually in the White House right now with everything that everyone knew? So he does have a way of being Houdini and escaping all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
But there's something that just feels different right now. Like he's the bully who finally got punched in the face this week, and he didn't really do anything about it. And everyone from his loyal MAGA people, like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, to John Thune and congressional Republicans are like, so you can go against this guy. And because I think he's just old and tired. And what is he going to do? I mean, honestly, what is he going to do to Marjorie Taylor Greene, to this one? A shit post? Like,
primary them. He'll primary them.
Yeah, but he doesn't have
Ultimately,
that power
that's
anymore. Look what happened on
well,
November
we'll see.
4th, like
We'll see if he has that power. But that's what he'll try to do to people that go against him. And typically, historically, no one wins against Trump. He wins. So I don't know. We'll have to see how folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mason, Lauren Boebert, and Tom Massey, like how they come out of this. We'll have to see. But it'll be really interesting if they can make the case, kind of for the first time, that they can do that and survive politically. I think will be a permission structure for others to do the same. But, again, we have to wait and see what happens in midterms.
Yeah. I look at the Trump administration the way I view my favorite movie of all time, The Wizard of Oz, because to me there's a lot of parallels there. So I believe that everyone in Congress hates Trump. They have for the longest time. They would love to get rid of him. They just have been way too afraid to actually do anything about it. The Wicked Witch of the East or West, I forget which one.
Yeah.
They hated her too. The guards, the flying monkeys.
They had to put up with her.
Yeah. But then when, they threw the water on her and she started melting, it was ding dong, the witch is dead. It was a party, right? I feel like there's that kind of thing happening right now where he's the Wicked Witch of DC and he's melting.
He makes all of their jobs harder.
Yeah.
He makes it harder for them to go home to their constituents and,
You think Mike Johnson likes walking down the halls of Congress having to answer that the United States president is making death threats against Congress people?
No, he doesn't. Here's the problem, though. I think you're totally right about Congress. And I talk to members regularly, and you are right. They're exhausted, and this has not been good for business. The problem is, for MAGA influencers, it's been great for business. And so you've got some of the loudest, mouthpieces with the biggest platforms raking in the cash off of Trump and MAGA.
But aren't even they turning on him a little bit? Even this week, Rogan, and there was that other guy.
Not really. Not in a significant way. I mean, they might momentarily tisk him on foreign policy here and there, or Epstein here and there, but no, they're killing it. They're killing it. And Trump opening the door for conspiracy theories, white nationalism, anti-Semitism, bigotry, meant they got to open this gross, ugly door and do things that no one would have ever done because it was so impolitic and career ruining. Now it's not. And they found this audience of teenage boys that love this shit. So he still has these very powerful, influential platformers who are carrying his water. And I think once that starts to go, if that starts to go, then we'll really see an unraveling because they do a lot of work for him. They really do. They do a ton of work in terms of turning out support and radicalizing and turning people against the center, turning people against rationality and reality. They do a lot of work there. So as Congress can't wait for this to be over. I think MAGA influencers are like pigs in shit.
And do you make any connection at all to the results of the election with Trump and Republicans losing the young male vote to the last few months of Rogan and Theo Von and Andrew Schultz, the right-wing podcasters, people who helped him get elected, started questioning a lot of his policies. And then 2 weeks ago, we saw the results of the election and young men swung 30 points. And so you don't see a correlation.
I do. And those sort of manosphere influencers, I think, really have an inroad to that particular audience. When you look, though, at Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro,
yes,
that faction, it's a little different. They're speaking to a bit of a different audience.
Absolutely.
And they're still, very much carrying Trump's water. Tucker Carlson, it's a bit of a different audience. I think you're right on that part in the manosphere and those particular podcasters. But there's still very influential, powerful voices who are doing a lot of Trump's dirty work and defending him and trying to whitewash Jeffrey Epstein and whitewash Nazis. And I mean, that's very
So you don't believe that it's okay to rape a 15-year-old girl. That's what I'm sensing.
I mean, that's a choice, man. That is a choice to be the mother of a teenage daughter and decide, because you don't have to do this. Decide, I'm going to go out and use my very powerful platform to do pedophile math in Jeffrey Epstein's favor.
What?
And by extension, in Trump's favor.
That's a choice.
That is a morally bankrupt ghoul.
Yes.
Who has sold her soul.
I watched it again this morning, and I couldn't believe my ears. I like. It's not like they're 5. Like, are you kidding me? 15-year-old girl is a child, legally and in every sense of the word. They're not emotionally developed. They're not physically developed. Like, and you're just barely legal fetish. I mean,
not barely legal. 15 is not barely legal. It's illegal. But also, like, to actually say the words, I heard Jeffrey Epstein's not actually a pedophile because.
Right.
What are you doing?
That's like my daughter Sophie always says. If you hear yourself starting a sentence that begins with, the good thing about Hitler is, just stop. Just stop.
Stop.
Same thing.
That is a wild choice, but it really just shows how far down the rabbit hole MAGA influencers have gone to keep their base rabid and radicalized. Because once you start doing conspiracy theories and whitewashing evil things, you have to keep doing it and going more and more and deeper because your audience demands more of it. I don't know where you go after Nazis and pedophiles. What is left to whitewash?
The Mets, the New York Mets.
That's worse.
The Jets, probably the Jets.
I'm offended by that. But no, I mean, like, what is left? How much lower could you go than deciding Tucker Carlson to launder a neo-Nazi's reputation and Megyn Kelly to launder a pedophile's reputation? There's nothing under it.
You're right. And there are 2 camps, which is why a lot of people are talking about this split that is apparently taking place in the MAGA sphere amongst the really, really crazies and committed and those who still have some kind of brain and soul power left. And, you know, I say this a lot, you know, our elections have constantly been won and lost on the margins. So we don't need MAGA, everyone in MAGA to go, you know what, I'm done.
Right.
If they've lost the independents and they're losing some people in MAGA, right?
Yeah.
Not the lunatics, but just like, you know, the people who wanted groceries to be cheaper or whatever.
Right.
Know, that's a bad situation for them to be in. So that's why I feel like something really tangible and meaningful is happening right now.
I don't disagree. And I hate always like throwing cold water on this, but I do want to talk about this rift, air quotes, inside MAGA. You know, Ben Shapiro calling out Tucker Carlson for platforming a Nazi. And I have a problem with this because it's really disingenuous. The idea that this all started with Nick Fuentes is absurd. This all started in 2015 with Donald Trump. Donald Trump opened the door to the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, the nationalists and the white supremacists and the bigots and the anti-Semites and the homophobes and the Islamophobes and the sexists. He opened that door. If you're mad 10 years later that Nick Fuentes walked through that door, you're wrong at the mad person. You're mad at the wrong person. And no one's blaming Trump for any of this. Ben Shapiro's mad at Tucker 10 years after for platforming Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, who left Boston University to go march in Charlottesville the year Trump was elected because he was so inspired by Trump. Why aren't we connecting the dots here? That Trump is the bad guy for letting these ugly elements that you, Ben Shapiro, are now mad are now mad at. They've been here for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a
because Trump let them in.
psychologist, but do you think that there's a part of it that is like people don't want to beat themselves up and take blame for putting that guy in office?
Sure.
So it's easier to blame Nick Fuentes.
Well, yes, but it's so disingenuous.
Sure,
and it's ignoring the obvious elephant in the room.
There'd be no Nick Fuentes if there was no Donald Trump.
100%. 100%. So this rift, which again, I mean, just follow the money. This is for money and clicks and subs, and I don't find any of this principled, because to be principled, you'd have to start at the beginning.
Right, but does it matter?
With who's really to blame here?
Principled? Like I've had online debates with people who are like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she said this in the past, and it's the same shit when like Liz Cheney turned and they were like, she was anti-abortion. Like, who gives a fuck if they're on the right side now and helping bring this motherfucker down?
Yes.
Who cares?
But they're not, because they're not mad at Trump. I would love it if Ben Shapiro was like, and you know what? Trump brought this in. Then I'd be like, yes, come over to this side. I don't care where you were before.
Yeah, but if I said to you
blaming Trump.
If I said to you on January 20th of last year that in November, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be calling Donald Trump a traitor.
Right.
You would have been like, Andy, are you taking your meds?
True.
Right?
Correct.
Here we are. And so the question is, where are we going to be a year from now? If this is what we're seeing now and it continues, what will you and I be talking about a year from now? Like, oh, can you believe it? They just pulled the 25th Amendment. Like, we don't know, right? We don't know. We don't know.
Could be. We don't know. I tend to see some very personal motivations in Marjorie Taylor Greene's turn on Trump.
Sure.
And, you know, what's to say she doesn't turn back, right?
Yeah.
What's to say she doesn't get very scared of losing her seat and decide she's back on Team Trump? Who knows? But you're right. This is so wild. And he does seem to be losing his grip on the base. That we could be in a very different place come midterms, a very different place. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but it does feel like for the first time, he cannot control the narrative.
That feels true.
And it's like, you know, it's like if there's a prize fighter who's been a champion, but all of a sudden, like, they can't go 15 rounds anymore. They're too tired. Like, something's
changing. And that was his
changing.
superpower.
And so it does feel like he's lost his superpower. Epstein, do you think the death threats against the Congress people, is that just a distraction from something he knows could bring him down? Like that to me is like a Hail Mary pass.
It's desperate.
It's so pathetic.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So that's what I feel has changed, is that he ordered John Thune to, you know, kill the filibuster. He didn't. They unanimously voted for this bill, you know.
That's a really good point. That was huge.
Yeah, so like
that was huge, because he was floating this in the press constantly for like a week.
Yeah.
And no one bought it.
No one bought it. And he can't control Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he can't control any of this. So when you look at the last 2 weeks, I mean, it's hard to fathom that the election, the shutdown, Epstein, all this stuff it's 2 weeks. It feels like 6 months.
A year.
You have a very interesting take that I read on the shutdown in terms of who won that showdown.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to argue that, I mean, Democrats lost, right? They didn't get what they wanted. The point of the shutdown was to get these tax extensions on the ACA. They didn't get it. And they didn't get it because this was folly from the start. They underestimated Republicans' capacity for cruelty and their ability to withstand a bruising news cycle, bad optics, bad realities, all the pain that was being discussed. They didn't care. And Democrats thought they would. That was their mistake. So they lost on that discrete goal. But I think over time, Democrats will have won. Because I think ultimately most people just wanted it to be over, and Democrats put an end to it. And I think they'll look good for that. And now Republicans have to own whatever happens with healthcare benefits. They'll have to own it, because Democrats tried the intervention. They didn't get to do it. If Republicans want to be responsible for taking away millions of Americans' benefits or skyrocketing their premiums, that is a choice. And it's historically a bad one. And I think they'll be punished pretty badly in the midterms for it. So I think there's like a short-term pain that Democrats felt in that loss, maybe for a long-term gain.
Mm-hmm. And what were your biggest takeaways from the election itself? Because it was a pretty monumental defeat for the Republican Party.
Yes, there are a few takeaways. One is that I don't think you can read any kind of ideological prescription out of this. You had a Democratic Socialist win in New York City, and then two moderate NatSec moms win in, bluish purple states. So I don't think the lesson for Democrats is run a Mamdani everywhere,
right,
or run moderates everywhere. It's that candidate selection is key, and you have to find the right candidate for the right place at the right time. And all three of those candidates were correct. I think the other lesson is you have to talk about, and this is important for Democrats to hear, you have to talk about the issues that matter most to the most amount of people. And what Democrats typically do is talk about the issues they wish mattered to the most amount of people. Sometimes those things line up. In 2022, when Democrats really wanted to talk about abortion and democracy, that is what a lot of voters cared about. And Democrats killed it in those midterms. In 2024, Democrats really wanted to talk about Project 2025, Trump's racism, abortion, democracy. Voters cared about economy, crime, and immigration. So sometimes those things don't line up. You have to talk about the things that matter to the most amount of voters. And that's what Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill and Zoran Mamdani did. They all talked about affordability. They all talked about the cost of housing. They all talked about the cost of energy bills. They met voters where they were, not where they wanted them to be, not up here in esoteric land, but right down on the ground on the issues that mattered most to them. If they can continue to do that, I think they've got a really good shot at taking back the House and maybe even the Senate.
And that's interesting because there are a lot of people now starting to talk about the Senate, which was up until just a few months ago.
Not even on the table.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen today at the White House with Trump and Mamdani?
I don't know. I'm surprised by the level of détente. They both seem to be communicating, right? They're both saying, oh, we'll have a meaningful conversation. I think they both realize they need each other a bit. I think Mamdani's getting sort of like a wake-up call that there's not a lot he can do without City Council, Albany, and in fact, federal money. So I think he's trying to play nice. And I think, Trump is realizing it might make him look good to have him, host him in the White House. I don't know, but I wonder if we'll get a Zelensky type meeting where it kind of goes off the rails, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Or if these two guys are going to emerge, we had a really productive conversation. We'll work together in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, my prediction is that Trump's going to do what he does most of the time, Zelensky being one exception. But in person, when he's with somebody, face to face, he's usually a coward. He's Taco Boy, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to be like a little puppy dog. He's going to be enamored. I mean, some people say he's kind of enamored by Mamdani for a lot of reasons, as he probably should be.
I think he does admire him. Yeah.
And he's going to probably make all kinds of cool promises or whatever, but the likelihood is an hour later he'll be shitposting about him.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Muslim this, communist that, because that's his MO,
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It is. I mean, look, politics, you've been around long enough. It's a dirty game. People say shit all the time, and then they do
strange bedfellows.
Yeah, and
I'm always surprised.
But it makes you wonder because, Mamdani, if there was a poster child for everything MAGA hates, it's Mamdani, right?
Right.
He's Muslim.
Right.
He's a socialist. So there's that question of how nice can Trump be to him without
after trying to radicalize everyone against him, right?
After basically blowing MBS in the White House this week. So there's all this I mean, if he finishes the week with filleting Mamdani,
right?
I mean, how is that going to look? That's not a good look for him.
That's such a good point.
Among MAGA,
That's such a good point.
But it's all theater. It's just theater. It's going to be so performative.
Totally.
But it will be crazy if it ends up being like another Zelensky moment.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be a really interesting first test of his sort of like diplomatic abilities. And I think we'll be able to see like what kind of tone he's going to take throughout his mayoralty, which will be really interesting. I'm so fascinated by that race, which, I covered for Battleground every day. And so I was really immersed in this race. It was so interesting and so layered. I'm fascinated, and I can't wait to cover the next 4 years of this term. Really.
It's going to be fascinating because there's a good chance he can really be a very successful mayor who brings people together, or it could be a miserable failure for a lot of the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you about is these attacks that Trump has made on Catherine Lucy and Mary Bruce. The talk that some people are, like, when you go online, you see people, and I've said it myself too, it's like, where are the other reporters? How are they not standing up? Like, I can't fathom how reporters, especially like men, I don't want to sound old school, but you're standing there and the president of the United States is calling a reporter a piggy. How do you not find some professional way to slap his hand,
It really bothers me too. And I had a reporter on my podcast yesterday. I won't name him. But I asked him about this. And he said, it's just Trump being Trump. And as a journalist, I just can't. I asked this reporter about what Trump said about Jamal Khashoggi sitting next to his murderer and Piggy. And this reporter was just like, it's just Trump being Trump. I remember a time when news networks would stand up for other news networks. This happened during Obama, because Obama, we tend to forget, was actually quite hostile to the press. He tried kicking Fox News out of the White House pool, tried to prosecute a bunch of journalists under the Espionage Act. He was not great for press freedom. But when that happened, you'd have, like, Jake Tapper at the time was at ABC, and he said, no, we're not doing this. We're all going to be in the pool, or none of us are going to be in the pool. And he was really critical of Trump's attack on journalists on behalf of other journalists. And you see this pop up now and again, but not nearly as often as it should, because the press has gotten tribal, and that's so deleterious and corrosive. We should all be doing the same job, which is holding powerful people accountable, period, full stop, that's it. And instead, it's gotten to be, well, you're at Fox and you're at CNN and you're at MSNBC, you're on this side, you're on that. There should be no sides to journalism, especially when you're in that room, the press briefing or Air Force One, when you're with the White House press pool. There should be no sides. And there was a startling lack of courage to stand up to him and say, hey, that's not okay. And you're not. Trump is famous for kind of holding reporters hostage on Air Force One, and he just wants to talk all the time. They could easily say, we're not talking to you.
Right.
We're not talking to you if you're going to talk to one of us like that.
Exactly.
But they don't.
The other thing they could do, which I don't know why they don't, the next reporter goes, with all due respect, sir, can you please answer the question of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then the next,
and
the next, and the next, and the next. And don't stop asking that. What is he going to do? Kick everyone out? He's going to attack everyone?
That used to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
It doesn't happen anymore.
We're not going to fix it all here, but it's therapeutic to talk about it. Essie, as always, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely, anytime.
Take care. This episode was produced and edited by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud for Radio Free Rhinecliff, with additional editing by Maddie Rosenberg, music by Andrew Hollander, and graphic design by Cricket Langell. And with a special thanks to our sponsor, The Epicurean. Again, thanks for listening. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Backroom with Andy Ostroy YouTube channel, where you can watch full videos of our interviews. See you next time.